So a while ago I did a video on this channel where I basically walked you through what the review process for Braceletsbook is like. Because if you didn't know, I am one of the mods on Braceletsbook right now, so I have a good understanding of how the system works. If you do want to see that original video where I basically walk you through the review guidelines for Braceletsbook and explain to you why your pattern or photo may be declined, then I'll leave that video linked in the card and in the description for you so you can check it out later. But today I thought instead of theoretically talking about different patterns, we would actually go in and deep dive and actually review patterns together. I actually do this pretty often over on my Twitch channel. I've done quite a few live moderating sessions over there, and sometimes when I don't exactly know whether I should accept a pattern or decline, I find the chat to be very helpful in helping me make that decision. By that being said, let's hop on right into it and start reviewing. So before I start completely, I do want to mention that Braceletsbook actually recently acquired a couple of new moderators, and the ironic part of this situation is that I was waiting making this video for a couple of days now, and those couple of days the patterns to review were in the thousands. There were like 1.5, 2,000 patterns constantly waiting for review, and the day I decided to sit down and film a video about it, all the other mods cleared everything. It was completely empty, and right now, as you can see, we're sitting on 107 patterns, which will update in just a second because I actually loaded this page a while ago. But it is now 11 PM for me and I want to go to sleep, but I'm filming this video now because otherwise I just can't. So the first thing that we agreed with today is this amazing pattern. So let me walk you through the couple of things that we look at. Upon first glance, I would probably say I'm going to accept this pattern, but let's look into the details first. First of all, I always check the tags to make sure they are relevant and to make sure there are enough of them. We only accept patterns with 4 tags or more, and they have to be relevant tags. Snake, friendly, slither, scales, reptile, and pet seem to be good tags for this design. Another thing that I will look at is to see if any of the warnings are triggered, and there aren't any warnings on this pattern at all. All of the colors are easily distinguishable. The black color isn't too dark, so you can actually see the grid, so it's all good to go. Another thing that I would check is to see if I can actually make out what the pattern is. I can clearly tell that this is a snake. I also try to check if there are any pixels that seem to be out of place. For example, if there was like a red pixel right in the center here of the snake, I would probably think that that was a mistake, and I might write in the decline message to let us know, because now we have review notes on Braceletsbook. So when you're submitting your pattern, you can enter a message in the review notes for the next moderator to see. So I might write in the decline message, hey, you have an extra pixel here. Is that something that you wanted to be there, or is that a mistake? If so, could you please fix it or let us know in the review notes? But here, there are no such issues. Another thing that I look at is to see if there are equal sides around the pattern. And here we have 1 pixel at the top, 1 pixel on the left, 1 pixel on the right, and 1 pixel at the bottom. So overall, this pattern is super cute. I like it a lot. I'm gonna add a little smiley to it because I really like it. And I'm gonna hit accept, and we're gonna see how many patterns we actually have. This process takes a while, and you guys can see on stream specifically how long this actually takes because the pattern has to actually be pushed to the website. And now instead of 107, we have 61, so somebody is online and somebody is reviewing. So I'm really glad I actually sat down to film this video now because I'm gonna run out of patterns pretty quickly. But we loaded into this beautiful pattern, which I think is by the same person. It is by the same person, look at that. Same thing, there's no warnings triggered, the colors are easily distinguished. 2 at the top, 2, 2, and 2, that is good. There's no extra pixels anywhere, everything seems to be exactly perfect and where it needs to be, and the keywords are relevant, so I'm just gonna add a little heart and accept. So here we loaded into a pattern that has previously been declined, and I can see that because I can see the previous decline message of the previous moderator. And I like this pattern, I think it's cute, but unfortunately it doesn't follow the rules. The rules state that we don't allow simple text patterns, and the reason for that is that simple text patterns can be uploaded as alphabet patterns instead, out of which anything can be made. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt because I'm not actually the admin of Braceletsbook. This is just from my understanding from being a moderator and from talking with the admin. I might be wrong, but from what I understand, this was done because the website was getting overwhelmed with text patterns. People were submitting text patterns for literally everything, for everyone's name, for different phrases, and these text patterns were being submitted for a lot of different fonts as well, so the website was getting overwhelmed with text patterns. But not only that, when someone sees a pattern like this, and they like the font. They might want to make another phrase out of it, but you can't. You can only really use the letters that are already here in the pattern. But if you upload an alphabet pattern with the same font, you can create whatever design that you want, whatever phrase that you want, and you never have that issue. So the system doesn't get overwhelmed and you don't have that issue of you don't know how to make a specific letter. So I can see that the previous mod wrote, "Hi there, can you please add some extra artistic embellishments to your pattern, such as a unique design or illustration? We ask that word patterns include additional art before accepting. Alternatively, you can create the entire alphabet with this font so that users can make any words they want with it, and then additional art won't be necessary." I don't know exactly what the pattern looked like before, so my assumption is that the little hearts with the lines out of them were added because of this mod's note. However, I don't think that is really enough as like proper decoration. Let me show you what I mean. I think I showed you this pattern in the previous video that I did, but from my understanding, what adding decoration to the pattern means is sort of making the text be part of the design. For example, in this pattern, the meow pattern has little ears at the top and whiskers coming out from it. The meow is part of the design. Same with this meow pattern. I know it's just meow patterns, but that's just what I make, so I have these examples on hand. But same with this, we've got the E and the O are part of the design because the two cats make the M and the W, so the whole of the text is part of one cohesive design. Something like adding hearts and lines to a pattern doesn't really make it a design in itself, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna have to decline this one for that reason. Even though I do like the pattern, it just doesn't follow the rules, and I don't make the rules, I'm just a mod. Alright, here we have our first variation. So for variations, the rules are a little bit lighter because the actual pattern itself has already been accepted onto the website, so I only really need to look at the colors. As you can see at the top, there is a warning saying that this pattern already exists. This is a variation, so that's fine. For variations, I only really look to see if the colors are easily distinguishable, in which case they are here, and I also check to see if there is anything similar out of the variations that already exist. With this one, I think this is a little bit similar, but it's different enough, so I'm just gonna hit accept and not worry too much about it because it is just a variation. Alright, another pattern I see here that has already previously been declined, so let's read the decline message from the previous mod. Use lighter colors if possible, and they recommended a different color. Please try adding a color to the background. By doing so, it makes it easier for other users to make variations of your pattern. I can see that both of these things were fixed. The color warning isn't triggered anymore, and the grid is also visible. By asking for a color in the background, as this mod already stated, it does make it easier for other people to make variations, because a lot of people enjoy making variations with different background colors, different color splashes in the back. I assume that this background color used to be white, so if you changed that, it would also change the inside of the penguin, which you maybe don't want to do. So by making them two separate colors, it is easier to create variations for this design. Another thing that I'm going to note here is that there are different spaces on the sides. There isn't a space at the top or at the bottom, but there is one pixel to the left and to the right. However, I'm still going to accept it in this case because the thing that we really look for is that the left and right sides are the same size and the top and bottom are the same size. So if they're different between each other, it doesn't matter as much as long as it looks okay, but it has to be the same on the parallel lines, if that makes sense. It just makes the pattern look better. So this one is going to be accepted since all the issues were fixed. I didn't mention the keywords are also fine in this case. Alright, we come across another pattern, and this one says flowers, floral, bookmark, colorful and bright. All the colors are fine, and I can see the pattern. The pattern looks great. I do think it reminds me of a pattern that already exists on the website. So sometimes when I think that, I actually go through the tags and I try to find the pattern that reminds me of, and if it's identical, then I write in the decline message that it's too similar to a pattern that already exists and link to that pattern. But in this case, even if it does remind me of a pattern that already exists, it probably reminds me of a pattern that just shows like one flower or something. And in this case, the flowers are specifically organized to be better looking for a bookmark, I guess. And so in this case, it's totally fine. However, mods do tend to make mistakes. Sometimes we do accept duplicate patterns, and the mods are constantly searching through the database to find duplicates. And if duplicates are found, we do try to delete them. If you happen to find a duplicate on Bracelетbook, you can report it to a mod, preferably not me, because personally I don't actually mod that often. All of the other mods tend to do a better job of that. But if you do report it to a mod, and if the mods and the admin agree that that is a duplicate, you will get a reward for it. So yeah, this one is going to be accepted. And just to say that the database is constantly being monitored for duplicates and other issues as well. Alright, this pattern again is quite easy. I can see that it was declined before for not having 4 equal signs around the pattern, but it does now. It doesn't trigger any warnings. It looks cute. and the colors are easily distinguishable, and the tags are fine, so I'm just gonna hit accept. This has been a really good session. I usually decline much more by now. I've reviewed quite a few patterns and I've only declined one. All right, same for this case. Another variation, very simple. I'm just gonna hit accept. I don't need to check the tags for variations. I don't need to check the actual pattern for variations. To be fair, for normal patterns, we don't check the pattern as much anyway, but variations are relatively simple. Try to avoid similar colors. That doesn't come up anymore, so I can just easily hit accept on this one as well. All right, simple patterns. Simple patterns are very much a debated topic on Braceletsbook. There's no set line as to what qualifies as being a simple pattern. Typically what I think of when I think simple pattern, I think of stripes, because a lot of people submit stripes, like vertical stripes, horizontal stripes. People submit a lot of stripes for some reason. Hearts, because we have a lot of them, and usually when people submit hearts, it is a duplicate of some other heart that already exists. Squares, triangles, shapes, like basic shapes. People submit that a lot, and there's already a lot of them, and they tend to be duplicates of already existing patterns. So that's personally what I think of when I think simple patterns. However, there are quite a lot of mods. I think there's 15 of us now, something in that range. As much as we try to keep the process objective, there's no real way we can do that because we still are humans. We do have a mod chat though. If there are situations where some of us are unsure, we typically post in the chat and get other opinions on that topic. However, in this case, I think this is pretty simple. It's a basic shape, it has stripes in it, but I do still think that it actually resembles what it's trying to resemble, and it's different enough where I don't think there is an exact duplicate on the website. So I'm gonna go ahead and accept this because it doesn't trigger any of the other warnings. The keywords are reasonable and they fit. So I'm just gonna go ahead and accept this. I know that a lot of people do appreciate simple patterns because that means they can make them with less string. All right, we've got Marilyn Manson pattern, which was previously declined, and the moderator said, is this a logo? If it is, please add logo to the keywords, and I can see that the last keyword is logo here. Someone did add that. However, I don't know if this is a logo, so I'm gonna go check. Marilyn Manson logo. And I did find it. There are quite a few different logo variations here, so at first I thought that perhaps it wasn't a logo and it was an original creation, but I did now find it. It is something that actually exists in a bunch of different pictures here actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and click accept since there's nothing else that is wrong with this pattern. Is there 2222? Gonna go ahead and click accept. All right, the similar colors tag. This is also something that I see debated quite a lot. And when I say I see debated, I mean we actually get to review the comments in the forum posts, as you can see here. I'm not gonna do that now, but we can, and I see that talked about quite a lot. People often get angry at us when we decline patterns for having two similar colors, but they don't realize one simple fact. Colors are displayed differently on different monitors. If you find the same picture and you look at it on your computer screen and you look at it on your phone screen, it's gonna look slightly different. That's just the reality of electronics. That's how different electronics display the same colors in different ways. So something that doesn't seem to be too similar on your device may be quite hard to distinguish on a different device. So in this example, the system flagged the colors C and D, these two colors. And if I scroll down a little bit, these are the two colors the system is talking about, C and D. And I don't know if the person who created this pattern, maybe their monitor displays the colors a little bit differently, but from what I'm looking at right now on my screen, which is kind of funny now that I'm thinking about it, because the way that you're watching it is also different than how I'm seeing it right now, because you're seeing a recording of it on whatever monitor you're watching it on, maybe your phone. But from what I'm looking at right now on my screen, I can barely tell those colors apart. There is a very, very, very slight difference in the tone that I can kind of tell apart, but it is very difficult. So I am gonna have to decline this pattern for that reason. The color is way too similar, so I'm gonna choose the similar color option from the menu, and I'm gonna decline this pattern for that reason. All right, I see a pattern that has been previously declined and says a similar pattern already exists in the database. And the review notes, because I get to see the review notes as well, the review notes say which pattern is similar. I looked at the zodiac sign patterns and none of them are like this. I don't know. I don't know. Usually when I decline a pattern for being too similar, I like to leave the pattern that it's too similar to. Some mods don't do this, so let's actually have a look at the tags. Let's have a look at Leo. I'm actually gonna have these patterns side by side now so I can actually see this one. The Leo here, the symbol for the Leo here is basically identical to the symbol for the Leo there. This one is lower by 1 pixel, but that's not different. That's not enough of a difference. So I'm gonna reference this pattern for the Leo. And I believe there is a similar pattern for the flowers as well. So I'm gonna look for flower, and that is literally the first one that comes up. Wow, I am lucky because I usually have to look quite a while, but that is literally the first one that comes up, so I'm going to copy and paste that. So that is how we look for patterns that are too similar. Typically, I like to add the actual pattern numbers. When I have a hunch that a pattern is a bit too similar, I just go through the tags and I find it. This time I was very lucky. Both of these are a bit too similar. In fact, it has the exact same colors. This one is slightly different, so I'm gonna have to decline it. And now I see a pattern with the exact same thing, but with a different zodiac sign. It's the same thing. It's only different by like 1 pixel. It's a little bit longer, but it's the same thing as here. And the flower is from this one, so I'm gonna have to link to those patterns again. And again with this one, and with this one, and I'm assuming this is for all of the zodiac signs, so I'm just gonna skip this for you, but I'm gonna manually decline all of these. Alright, we have a pattern that I'm going to have to decline again. So a lot of people submit patterns by using the feature on Bracelетbook that allows you to generate an alpha pattern from a photo, and this is what was done here. The downside to that feature is that it generates a pattern with a lot of very similar colors, because it's basically trying to generate pixel art from a photo. It's trying to compress that photo essentially into pixel art. But it generates a lot of similar colors. We have a whole list of colors that are too similar, and I'm not even gonna go through and compare each and every one of those. I can definitely tell that there are way too many similar colors here. Just A, B, and G, for example, way too similar in between each other. So I'm gonna have a few decline notes here. The first one being the amount of colors, and the second one is going to be this one. This pattern seems unfinished. Could you please try tweaking it a little bit? We also have a tutorial on how to tweak patterns. This pattern does seem unfinished. It was just uploaded from the generator. It wasn't actually edited in any way to be a proper pattern. The colors are way too similar. The shading is strange. It definitely requires some work on it to make it actually look like a proper pattern that can be made. And we do have a tutorial on Braceletbook on how to tweak patterns, which you can view if you want to. Hopefully that helps you with your pattern tweaking. So yeah, that is going to be it for today with the pattern review. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight into what the actual review process is like on Braceletbook and what are some of the reasons that we might decline your patterns. Once again, if you want a more in-depth look into the actual review guidelines and the thought process that goes into each section of the review, because I only actually looked at patterns today, and even with patterns I didn't go through all of the possibilities why a pattern may be declined. Definitely check out the video that I already did on this topic, which once again is linked in the card and in the description. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, I could potentially do another one of these. I do however stream this on Twitch quite often, so you can actually see me go through these live. Some viewers have seen their own patterns in my lives, which is always fun, and you can also give me some insight maybe in some patterns where I'm not 100% sure what I should do. I've found that the Twitch chat definitely helps me with that. Also, let me know if you want me to make a video on how to review photos, because there are different criteria for photos. They're not as strict, but let me know if you want to see that. In any case, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I want to give a special shout out to my patrons and especially my top supporters whose names are going to appear on screen right now. Thank you guys very much for your support. I really do appreciate it. And if you also want to become a patron, there's a link in the description where you can sign up and get exclusive perks for your donations. I just sent out my Patreon packages for the month a few days ago, and I'm gonna do another round in just a couple of days because I got a couple of new patrons this month. So if you want to get your package as soon as possible, now is the perfect time to become a patron. If you want more content from me, you should follow me on Twitch. As I mentioned a couple of times in this video already, I do lives on there. I actually did a stream right before I sat down to film this video where we were nutting Derek. Give him a shout out in the chat if you know who I'm talking about. Derek for the win. And before you go, I would also really appreciate if you would subscribe to this channel because we're getting really close to 100k and I'm very excited to have that beautiful round number to be my subscriber count. In any case, thank you guys very much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!